Hi, I'm Glenn Adamson. I am an actor, best known mostly for playing Strat in Bat Out of Hell, and have been in shows such as We Will Rock You, American Idiot, Close to Heaven, and I am appearing as John, the Witch Boy in Dark of the Moon this summer.
And then what can you tell me about John and the role within Dark of the Moon?
So John is essentially like he straddles the two worlds between the supernatural and the human, and he has been living in this town in the Appalachian Mountains that are witches effectively that go unseen and have are timeless, but has become infatuated with a human girl, Barbara Allen, and he makes a deal effectively to become human in order to be with her, and that comes at a cost which I can't give away any spoilers, but there are a few conditions to that agreement that they both have to adhere to, but tries to really live this life with Barbara Allen without her ever knowing that past that he has. And we see how that plays out between the two of them, but it's all set to sort of an incredible folk rock score. And yeah, it's effectively about the suffering of being human that perhaps he didn't expect watching it from the outside, and then how much pain we actually go through as humans, especially in love.
I'm fascinated by any role that's called John the Witch Boy as well.
Yeah, agreed. Which man, maybe? Nah.
Yeah, yeah. And then what kind of did draw you to this role in particular?
Do you know, I got sent the script and I was sort of reading through it and I thought, oh, I love anything like this where like the the character isn't necessarily like I don't play alpha men very well. It's not really me. I like these like outcast beta individuals. And I read him and I thought, oh, I really sort of can identify with him, especially as he becomes human. A lot of it is about the pressures in society to be a man, a stereotypical man, especially if he wants to marry this woman in this town. And so I was initially drawn to that and then the supernatural element, and they appear to each other in their dreams. And I thought, oh, wow, this is quite Bat Out of Hell. Like I was enjoying the supernatural nature of it and thought, yeah, this is a bit of me. And then when I heard the songs, I was totally sold on it. There's a duet in it called Maybe that I listened to, and then the next day I was humming, thinking, what is that song I'm humming? I can't think of what it is. And I thought, oh, it's from that musical I was sent yesterday. So it's like I absolutely have to go in for that. And then as I've delved deeper and deeper now into the soundtrack, it's giving me American Idiot, it's giving me Fleetwood Mac. I'm really excited about it. So yeah, I hope that people get behind it.
And obviously, I know you're kind of still a few weeks away from the actual run yet, but how are you approaching playing a person who has to basically learn how to become a man?
Yeah, I mean, we start rehearsals Monday, but I've had the script for a while now, and I've been looking at a lot of the music. I mean, that is something that as we go through, we'll discover in terms of the physical language of it. But I think that is something we can all sort of, well, certainly a lot of the people that I'm surrounded by that are in theatre can already relate to. So I've mostly just been looking at a lot of that about how society puts so much pressure on certainly young boys now, and you know this whole thing of like boys don't cry. I was brought up in that era, and he really is trying. He's getting a lot of pressure when he does become a man and marries Barbara Allen to earn his keep and to look after his wife and to do all these things that he doesn't, and to be a stereotypical male that he just necessarily doesn't relate to. He wants to play guitar and sing and talk in poetry and live this like romanticized life, but society is telling him no. And there's a great tune at the beginning of Act Two that's like he's singing about tell me what it takes to be a man because he doesn't understand because he's got all these qualities about him that everyone's pushing out of him. So yeah, and then obviously he's coming from it from their angle as well of this witch community and having like these incredible powers and being immortal, and then that sort of that going in the mundanity of human life.
And then obviously the show, people don't know, is based on a play that's kind of from the 1930s, 40s. Do you kind of delve back, and even like the folk song before that, do you kind of delve back into that world while you're preparing?
Yeah, I've been looking a lot into the folk song from that's even older than the
It
1940s,
is.
isn't it? And in that, it's obviously the story of a woman and a man, and then he dies, and they don't get to be together, and then he visits her as a ghost. But the and then the original play. there seems to be a lot of love for the play. I know it was way before its time when it came out, and then it's really resurfaced again during the last series of Stranger Things because they put it on essentially as a show, and that's sort of what brought it to life. Because this version of the musical has been kicking around for quite a few years, but I think it was sort of on the back burner. And then as soon as it appeared in Stranger Things, it was like, now's the time, like strike while the iron's hot and bring it out and give it a life. And I think it's so good that it's finally getting to come, to the UK, but certainly have like a proper premiere on a world stage. So yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah, you've kind of preempted one of my questions, really. Like that kind of world of Stranger Things and the kind of supernaturals having like a moment, as you say, right now. How exciting is it to be part of that?
Yeah, it's so exciting. I mean, that's where I sort of fit, and I always worry when there's like too many of these musicals that are golden age going on. And I think, where on earth will I go in any of this? I'm going to be out of work for a while. So
Yeah.
I'm excited by things that sit on sort of the outcast misfit sort of nature, and I think it's fun, isn't it? I think essentially as well with the moon, or what we've been going with Artemis 2 at the minute. And the nature in this, they're fascinated by the moon. It's called Dark of the Moon, but that's one of their shared things. It's like everyone worldwide can see the same moon. So whether they're witch or human, they're still all fascinated by this undiscovered world, which we're sort of seeing right now. And I think because the world is such a dark place at the minute, we are fascinated by these like supernatural stories that show us that there's something different. And that allow us to suspend our disbelief from what is going on the news when you turn it on. I think that's why it's having such a moment.
And obviously, you're starring alongside Lauren Jones, who is playing Barbara in the show. How do you kind of prepare for basically creating that central relationship, like you say, before rehearsals? How do you kind of get in the
Yeah,
mindset
we've
of
been
that?
chatting quite a bit actually, me and Lauren. We've had a few meetings now, like mostly virtual though. We've not met each other yet in real life. And been talking about the characters. And what's really interesting is usually in the audition process, you would probably meet and try some things out chemistry wise. But she's really cool and she's so talented. And we both seem to be on the same page with how we sort of think about these roles. And I think yeah, it's going to be a really exciting journey. She's a real Stranger Things fan, so she's great for me because her knowledge is way better than mine on that. And then I'm obviously like a huge rock fan, so musically I'm like coming at it from that angle.
And obviously, I know you described it as filling the folk rock void in the soundtrack. Kind of, what can you tell me more about the songs, really?
Well, the songs are like there's two worlds really. So with the humans, their soundtrack is a lot more country folk, and then it's a lot more sort of punk rock for the witches. And then as they come together and John crosses that world, we start to sort of mold the two together, which I've not really heard done before. And certainly I'm not hearing anything at the minute that's like in London's West End that's got that like what I love, that big sound of like two guitars, a bass, drums, and that like hit you in the face sort of rock sound, which you really do get quite a lot from this. Whenever you're sort of taken into that supernatural world, it changes onto that, and it really lends itself to. I mean, it gives Green Day to me. It really has that, and I don't think there's anything going on. I mean, Hadestown is as rocky as we currently are in town, and even that is like very much like country folk. Like it's the melodies are beautiful, but it's a lot gentler than sort of this, which is filling those like Bat of Hell, We Will Rock You, American Idiot, but not jukebox, which is what excites me as well, that someone's writing it for musical theatre.
Yeah, because I kind of listened to Wildflower first, and then Certified Rockstar came on second. I was like, yes.
Yeah, they're so different, aren't they? So like you've got Lauren giving that lovely gentle melody, and then you're hit with this, and there's another song called Make Me Human, which I love, which like it just gets in your head. It's such a banger, but it's real heavy. Like it sounds brilliant. I'm really excited for it. I mean, the writers behind this are incredible. Their list of hits is so good. I mean, most famously, probably like they wrote Skyscraper for Demi Lovato, which I think everyone loves that song. And you hear that actually. I can hear the influence of those with in the score.
And obviously, as you say, Battle of Hell was kind of your last big contract. How do you kind of prepare for the intimacy change of doing like massive venues like you had done with that to play in Charing
Mm.
Cross Theatre?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like throughout my career, it's ebbed and flowed in size, and I think like this is not quite as intimate. Say when close to heaven at the turbine, you could see the white of everyone's eyes, and you'd be like, "Oh wow, they're there." So this is one scale up from that, but the I think with that, I prefer that. I always find like it shows lose something the bigger they get because you can't see people at the back. You sort of become a bit more, the acting loses focus sometimes because you're playing such a big room. You're having to make everything so over the top in order for people to read it from the gods. I like when we take it back to something that's more like people can really be in it with you and really feel the atmosphere of it. And I love that knowing that you're in the safety of an audience that are part of it with you. I feel like there's such a disconnect. I certainly know when I go watch a show and I go, oh, I really don't want to pay that price, therefore I'm going to go and sit up there, that I feel more disconnected as an audience member as well, which I think is such a shame that we have, that, you have to pay more to feel connection.
Yeah, and that's why I love venues like Charing
Charing
Cross.
Cross, there
It's
is no bad
perfect venue
seat.
for that.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, I agree.
And then if you could make a deal with a conjure man, what would you want to have special skill wise from them?
I love your research on this one. Well done. Yeah. Do you know what? If I could, I would talk to people that from the past, like that aren't with us anymore, like my grandparents. I would definitely like. I would love to tap into that. But I would also, if I couldn't have that, if they said no, it has to be more like superhero esque. I'd either like to swim under the sea with, without needing to take breaths so that I could just explore that world, or I'd like to fly. I'd
Yeah.
quite like to go to the moon as well. I wouldn't have
Yep.
said that a week ago, but now looking at those pictures, I'm like, yeah, get me to the moon,
Yeah, no.
which, I'm quite glad that's happened before we start the show because there is a lot of references of them wanting to see the dark side of the moon. So here we go.
No, you're in. The perfect timing,
Now I
really.
know what it looks like.
Yeah, yeah. And then if you could turn the tables and sit down with John and ask him a question about his journey, his life, what do you think you'd want to ask him?
Oh, I think I would want to ask him what if he's immortal, what is it that's different about Barbara Allen? I think that's something we have to try and discover with us because there's something, if he's been around for hundreds of years, what is it about this one human that makes it worth giving it all up for? Because he's okay with death if it means being with her. And I imagine, it's not the first human he's come into contact with in all those years. So what is so special about her, which I guess we'll find in the room.
I'm not going to make you kind of give up your life for this question, but what would you kind of give up if you had to make a pact like John does?
Oh, if I had to give up something for love, I'd give up anything. Maybe money, worldly possessions. I'd give it all up. Yeah, I think there's nothing more important, right, than that, like human connection and love, and finding something that stops you feeling lonely in this crazy world we live in.
And if you then had to introduce John to like a 2026 world, what is the song you'd introduce him to first?
Oh, in 2026, I don't know if I'd go for anything from 2026 though. I'd give him. Oh, do you know what? That's such a good question. Because I'd want to be like, oh, you need to listen to Queen, you need to listen to
Yeah.
Fleetwood Mac, you need to listen to a bit of Bon Jovi, I'd be going down that whole rabbit hole. I'd be making them listen to a bit of MJ, a bit of Prince. I'd be like, look at this, but all the
Yeah.
music that I sort of, I mean, they don't write them like they used to.
No, yeah, agreed.
We'd have a whale of a time going through that soundtrack. I'd be like, you think you're a rock star? Listen
Yeah,
to these guys.
there you go. And then obviously, I know you're like say we're not in the stage of the run yet, but how do you kind of mentally and physically prepare when you are doing a run like this?
With this, because actually looking at the score, I mean, we've got all the music, and there's a score for the whole cast, and then there's a score just for Barbara Allen and John. And I looked at it yesterday, and that's 101 pages of music just for the two of us. And I thought, I actually think this is more singing than I've ever done in any show. It's really full on with the vocals, and there's a lot of material that's sung for just the two of us. It's not, the load isn't shared, as much as it often has been in other things that I've done. So really, I'm sat there thinking, okay, you need to really hone in on the like vocal health on this. So it'll be a dry summer. It'll be a dry summer, I think, and just yeah, maintaining the voice because it's going to be a big demand for both of us.
And then how do you typically unwind after you've done a show?
Interesting. I mean, I'm quite boring. I'm really boring. I'm like a nice cup of tea, a
Yeah.
nice bit of telly, and I sort of, well, I tend to listen to the radio really or listen to music afterwards and sort of, especially when you do something that's quite heavy on the band, I will have that like playing in my ears constantly. So I'll be laid in bed and I can still hear like a guitar and a drum. So I try to sort of tune out with a little bit of usually maybe a bit of Kate Bush or Enya or something like that. I play them and then they send me off to sleep. I'm big into like Eva Cassidy at night.
Yeah, yeah. I like a good like calmy, folky vibe myself, like
Yeah,
wind down with that.
I like to go to sleep to sort of a female power ballad.
Yeah, yeah. And then what was the first piece of theatre that kind of had that impact on you that you thought, oh, hello, that's for me?
Do you know what? Yeah, I used to go and watch. I used to beg to go and see theatre when I was a kid 'cause we didn't have a lot of money, and then like we would save up and would go on these trips. And I used to go and watch them, but I was never enamored by it. I loved it, but I never thought that would be something that I would do. I never sort of found my place in theatre and watching it. And then I remember going to see Rock of Ages with my mum, and we got day seats when that used to be a thing, and we queued and we got front row, and we had no idea about this show really. And I just remember it like hitting me like a wall of sound hitting me in the face, and thinking, oh my god, I want to be Drew in this so bad. Like I want to sing these songs, and thinking like this is where I could fit. This is where I fit in musical theatre. And then sort of it didn't work out for me musical theatre wise. When I was auditioning for drama schools, certainly I couldn't afford the musical theatre colleges and didn't get into any of the ones that potentially we could have afforded. And then it led me to an actor route, but that worked out perfectly because then I discovered the music alongside the acting when I was at LIPA, because there was a music degree and it was Paul McCartney School, and you were just submerged in the Beatles. And I found it then, and then I've then came out and sort of found my place again in it. I'm really lucky that sort of American Idiot took me on really, because that was my first like show that led me down, let me in the club. Because before, no one would have me in the club, in the musical theatre club. It was a bit snobby.
Yeah, yeah. And then what keeps you inspired to tell these stories?
What keeps me inspired? Do you know what? Like, something has to excite me. I'm quite happy to be like on the gigging circuit and doing my own thing. And so when it comes to a musical, I'm like, I want something that feels like me now. I don't just want to take a job for a job. I want to know that like I'm excited about going in for it. And so when you hear like a demo track for something and you want to be the person that sings it, when you're like, ah, oh, that's great. I want to be the person on that though. Like I know that I could do that song. I want to see what we can do with it on. Then I'm excited, then I'm inspired, and then I want to do the project. And that's what I really felt with this. Like I came out of listening to it in the bath and just thought, I'm doing this, I have to do this. And so I really fought for an audition for this, because at first we didn't think it was going to work out because of instrument requirements they wanted for the part originally before the sort of workshops there. And then we thought it wouldn't work out because I was on holiday so much that like the dates just weren't lining up. But I was taking no for an answer. I kept being like, no, I just kept
Yeah.
recording myself doing stuff, being like, please, please.
And
And it
then
worked.
to wrap up our conversation, simply what would you hope an audience member takes away from seeing the show?
I think I would love this show to like give people a sense of community. I feel like it's a show for the misfits and the outcasts and for the people that like feel pressure to conform in our modern society. But also what I hope people take from it is like a suspension of disbelief, and just for 2.5 hours not escaping the chaos of the world. I think this would really take you out and allow you to just shut off and experience like a whole world that sort of seems far-fetched, but we all need that escapism. It's the same reason people loved Bat Out of Hell. You know, they felt 18 for 3 hours. And I love that. I think it's priceless when theatre just allows you to sort of just hang up your worries. It's not asking you like these in-depth questions. We're just taking you on a great love story. And I love that.
Well, Glenn, thank you so much. Just leaves me to say, Dark of the Moon runs at the Charing Cross Theatre, 18th of May to the 8th of August.
Please support it. I would love you to.